Good evening, everyone, and welcome to PGS Tier 1, which comes to you for this week from the Dutch coast and Zandvoort. Only the 9 drivers this week. A slight reduction on the drivers, obviously, used to be saying. Hopefully the drivers can still deliver a great race to come. I mean, there was some great racing last week. One of the drivers, obviously, one of those being the winner, I believe, or the Fizz, I believe, in the Aston Martin. So, points for all tonight, as we are awaiting the drivers coming out onto the track. Definitely with a small number, a small grid, this is definitely be an interesting affair to see how everyone does indeed get on. But while we are waiting for drivers to come out onto the track, I will have a quick look at the standings from last week. The championship standings from last week after Singapore, so we go from one long race to another, effectively, as Linguini serving, I suspect, a sort of qualifying ban. It has already retired. So, your standings for this week, or coming into this week after Singapore, it is the Fizz who leads on 84 points. Ghost, unfortunately, is unavailable tonight. He's got PC problems, so he will not be seeing the Mercedes drivers tonight. Marky, another one of the drivers who was involved in the great racing last week in the battle for the lead of the Grand Prix and the podium positions, he is unavailable as well this week. So we will not see him in action this week. Gattuso is also likewise unavailable. Verdad. Which one of the two? I don't know which way I'm pronouncing that properly. It'll give him a chance to move up from where he is currently in P5. Luke Bailey, he's here P6 and 22 points. Mitch, I'm not here either, so neither of the Mercedes drivers are here tonight. Linguini starting from the back of the grid. He's in P8 on 17 points. Jay Pinto and the Williams on 15 points. Meant where he wasn't after last week. Ryan Barthez in 10th in the Red Bull. He is here this week. With XL Jamie in 11th on 10 points. Then it's Dave, who's not here either. Sub-Zero on the Williams, who is. Or Zed, who's on 3 points, not here this week. Yeah, Asus on 2 points is the final point scorer who's here this week. And see if we got anyone else who's not actually here this week. No, I think that is everyone from that. As Manny is on a lap, someone I've seen before racing, so someone I'm looking forward to seeing how she gets on this week. Because I have not yet seen, obviously last time that I would have seen her was in a completely different league from I believe a season or two ago, so looking to see how she gets on tonight in the Alpine. So the constructor standings while we were watching Manny do a lap of this Zandvoort circuit. It's Aston Martin on 109 points. Mercedes with no drivers here this week, they're on 67, so it's going to give them a chance to McLaren, who are in P3 on 65. Only 2 points behind, and they have, of course, Luke here, chance to go ahead of Mercedes in second in the standings, Ferrari in third, with none of their drivers here this week. And then it is Alpine in 5th and 25, with Manny representing the Alpine team this week. Williams in 6th with both their drivers, that being Sub-Zero and Jay Pinto. Red Bull in 7th with the sole driver being Ryan. He's gone back into the pits again. I believe the next car is going to be one of the Williams, so we'll have a look and see which one it is. I think it is Sub-Zero. So stay on board with them at the moment. Haas are on 3 points with no drivers here this week. Sauber, chance for them to go up ahead of Sauber, and then Racing Bulls at the bottom of the scoreboard on 0, again with no drivers. So, see how that does actually fare up in terms of everything we see here tonight. As a Sub-Zero pops himself into P2, so good lap there from him on 3, and it's going to be his teammate coming from Jay Pinto, pops into P2 just ahead. It's a 110.533, marginally behind Manny in the Alpine, so it's current the Alpine, followed by the two Williams, and it's Luke Bailey coming towards line next, and the sole McLaren here tonight, marking on around tonight, as there goes Luke Bailey. A 1:10.099 takes him to the top, and that is your lap times on the board at the moment. Not many other drivers coming out. So the Zandvoort circuit is a quick old look here, if I can actually get this to. So the Zandvoort circuit, 72 laps. Obviously, we've just had the real life Grand Prix today. The real life Grand Prix today. That was, of course, won by Lando Norris. I would say, if you don't want any spoilers, you might not want to tune into this bit of the live stream. But the McLaren driver taking, I believe, his second victory of the season after winning back in Miami, with the home favourite Max Verstappen coming home in second. And then it was Leclerc who finished what was a very boring race in terms of no safety cars as such. One of the tracks where if you're in behind, then you're going to be stuck in certain places behind other drivers, because the overtaking places you can make moves in certain places, but you do kind of have to make sure you time where you make your moves. Because around here last night, the one sort of shining moment I had from a race around here last night, so it goes for a date on and out lap. He should be okay, that shouldn't affect his run, although it will mainly his tyres will be a little bit overheated as he heads round to start on his lap, but it'll definitely be an interesting one to see how, as I say. So, Zandvoort, I believe it is about 30 laps around here with 50% race distance. 50%? 50%. I don't know why that is the first time it came to my head there. As Verdade with his slightly overheated rears after his slight rearward motion, a little bit correction into that corner there. Gonna have a look real quick at the circuit. Just bear with me just one moment and find what I'm looking for. But small fields. So pulling up a quick old map of the F1 circuit itself. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. On that one, great. Trying to find an actual one as they put the track news on it. There we go, that's indeed what I'm looking for. Right, so the Zandvoort circuit, as Verdade has gone to the top of the leaderboards, as the Fizz is coming around. He's done a 1:11.6 on hards. That's not a bad lap there from a championship leader, as here comes Ryan towards the line himself. And there goes Ryan across the line, a 1:09.980. All the zeros and all the nines and all the eights in that one. If you were in a certain term. But the current layout of the Grand Prix circuit, turn a 14 corner circuit, 72 laps with a full race distance around here, so we're looking at around 30... beforehand. We'll find when we're going to the race. For some reason my brain is just blanking when I'm coming to what I'm actually thinking about for some odd reason. Let's say a few drivers back out on laps. I think Manny's going to go first. Let's look at Stephen just in front. Be the other one's just ahead. I do believe that is J Pinto, who will be the first one doing a brand new lap. Everyone is coming back into the pits. So, the Zandvoort circuit, a 14-turn circuit. The two DRS detection zones, one that comes out of the banking of turn 14 and goes into turn 1, Tarzan corner, into turn number 2 and turn number 3. That's a corner name I'm going to probably remember because my Dutch is terrible. Turn number 4 and 5 are very slight kinks as they head down in towards turn number 60, turn number 6 into the end of the first sector, and into the second sector, which goes into turn number 7, the long right-hander. and into turn number 8, which is yet another right-hander. And same for turn 9. Turn 10 is a little bit more of a tighter corner, which leads onto the second of the two DRS zones, although you won't see many drivers making moves into that particular corner. And into turn 11, where the second sector split ends and the third sector split begins, which then goes into the right-hander, then into a flowing left, onto which is turn 12, onto a short straight, where you may see drivers making moves, but you'll see drivers sitting behind waiting for the DRS, into turn 13, and into the banking once again, which marks the end of the track for turn number 14. I believe the banking was a recent thing for the circuit, because the circuit didn't actually used to have a banking at some point. The banking was, of course, added. You've got to be careful with the ride height on the cars, not having the ride height too low, because if the ride height is too low, then you're going to end up with the car not wanting to, is going to bottom out as you come out of there. As say, the ride height, I believe, is a relatively new thing for this year's game. Unlike everything else, Manny will be the next one to cross the line, backed off into the pits as Manny, so no improvements there. This is still going around the laps at the moment. Sub-Zero has not improved on that lap time there, so he's going to go again. But Bailey is on a lap currently. He's about just under 1.5 tenths up on his middle sector, or his first sector split, as he comes towards the second sector. Now near enough at 1.5 tenths. 0.145 up on his middle sector is the McLaren. Here comes Luke towards the line. Let's see what the McLaren can do as he heads down, barrels down towards the line. What's it going to be for him? A 109.5.10957 for him, and he goes to the top. Does Luke? As I say, you will be able to get 3 laps, I think, out of this circuit if you do manage to time it correctly. 6 minutes 20 left on the board here in the around here. The works is near the Atlantic Ocean, or well, the North Sea, rather. I think it's got body water to it. But it is quite, as I say, it's a circuit that has hosted a lot of Grand Prix over the years, has a lot of heritage behind it. And one guise or another, as there goes Sub-Zero setting the quickest lap time, and then celebrate a little quicker lap time, and celebrating by going off into the gravel trap. As I think they've got Ryan current. I think we've got another lap, a couple more drivers for second and third on laps at the moment. That being the Aston Martin of Verdade, the Portuguese driver. In the Aston Martin, the second of the Aston Martins, one of the few teams with 2 drivers, one of only 2 teams with drivers here tonight, both drivers. So the Portuguese driver will be looking to improve. He's about 2 tenths up on his middle sector split, purple sector split for him in that particular section. As here comes the Aston Martin driver down towards the final banked corner, turn 14. And what can he do as he comes towards the line, taking the shortest line of resistance to the actual line. He stays in P2, but it is at 109.745. He stays in P2 for the moment. As Ryan, just back on board with him, 109.535, goes to the top, just marginally quicker than Luke. Quicker by 0.035 is the Red Bull over the McLaren driver. I mean, it'd be very realistic if the grid for the front 2 was pretty much exactly the same as it was for the real life qualifying yesterday. It was Lando Norris on pole from Max Verstappen, the home hero, yesterday in qualifying. But see, as I say, DOTS Molino. I think it's the correct way of saying that. The first Racing Bulls driver that I've seen so far in Tier 1. He's not actually been, I believe, a completely new driver to me. I don't know if he's raced this season or if he's picked up points yet, but it's a great chance for him to pick up points tonight with the small field, as he's purple in Sector 2, but he does not yet have a time on the board, so obviously you can potentially take those purple sectors with a grain of salt, because they can sometimes only be a little bit of a lie. The some of the drivers will take a high line through that banking, and some of the drivers will take the low line through the banking, depending on the levels they have. As he goes to 4th, a 1:10.2 for the Racing Rules Visa Cash App driver, and he pops himself nicely in the middle of the field, as they now on board with the Fizz. The championship leader, of course, as mentioned before, the Aston Martin driver, looking to make his mark in this qualifying session at 1.2 seconds up. Of course, his first run was done on a set of hard compound tyres, and I believe he did about 3 laps on those particular tyres. To the Aston Martin driver, got to be careful not to invalidate as you come out of that final corner, or get a terrible X out of there, because that affects your entire run as you come off that particular corner. I'm expecting to see a quick time here at 109.4, 86 from the Aston Martin driver, and he goes to the top of the table, just going ahead of Ryan at the moment in the Red Bull. Obviously, I have seen Ryan before. He briefly, I think, raced in Tier 2 in PGS before, I believe, moving into Tier 1. When I actually saw him, so he's obviously shown what he can do, and I believe that's pretty much everything for the moment. And I think that is probably his final run in this session, unless he can get around again, because he's going to be. Well, I think actually that will be him done effectively, as the drivers now will be coming out for their final runs, and it will be sub-0 out to the Williams, opting to go early in this for their final runs in this short qualifying format. Then it's going to be to follow, then it's going to be Luke, and then it's going to be the other Williams of J Pinto. A few of these names I do, as I say, remember from, I believe, pre-season. A few of these names I believe I did actually see over the pre-season, the short format that was done here at PGS, the 25% one-shot, 25% race distance that was covered then. As I say, Sub-Zero looking to keep his cool as he goes for his final run in this qualifying session. A 1:10.6 is his quickest time. So we are going to go on board with the Williams drivers as he takes us round this lap here at the Zandvoort circuit. So as we go on board, you want to be doing in towards turn number 1, using a little bit of the battery. As you can see on board there, a little bit of the overtake into turn number 1. Long corner which will affect your exit if you're not careful, and into turn number 2 and turn 3, which follow very quickly into turn number, and then in towards the kink, which is the very light right left of 4 and 5, and coming towards the first sector split, which marks between 6 and then into 7, and then as we head in towards turn number 8 and number 9, turn at number 10 for the Williams driver. Then the DRS enabled here, the first of the 2 detection zones within the race as well, using a little bit more of the battery, opting to keep a little bit for the line as he's now in towards the end of the second sector split and into turns 11 and 12. And now into turn number 13, which marks the final corner, and then the banking be the final time, as he's not got the best of exits coming off of there, so that's going to affect him a little bit. So let's see what the Williams driver can do as he comes across the line. What is it going to be for the Williams driver? He opts to go into the pits, so he indeed was not happy as the Fizz has gone to the top, a 109.299, and Sub-Zero was up, but he just opted to back out of the lap, so it's unfortunate there for him. And to see who else is going to see, Manny's gone across the line, 110.4 for the Alpine driver. So no improvement from the Polish driver. And J Pinto's cross line in P6. Luke Bailey's gone across the line in P3. 109.570. He does not improve. And looking to see who's going to be coming across the line. I think Asus is coming across the line next. He does a 110.6. His only lap in this one is Ryan. Goes to the top. 1:09.272. Does the Fizz have a response? No, I think that might be it, and I think that might be your qualifying run pretty much done and dusted, because he does not have enough fuel and he isn't validated as he comes into the pits. And there we go, that is your run for qualifying here in Tier 1. To note that I believe Casper will be back on the usual box next week, and I'll be back on Tier 2 again next week, so you'll have the usual dulcet tones of Casper next week. on the comms front. He's been away, I believe, in Poland himself, enjoying a nice family holiday, so hopefully he gives us some stories to tell, if he has any of those sort of stories to tell when he comes back from his holiday. I believe he's back on Monday. So there we go. That is your qualifying run done and dusted. So, as you can look Billy there in P3 at the moment. So, Ryan is your driver on pole position in the sole Red Bull here tonight. The Fizz on the front row alongside him, 0.027 is the gap between those two. Third and fourth is Luke Bailey and Berdade, the McLaren, and the second of the two Aston Martins, then it is Molino, 23, and the Visa Cash App alongside Jay Pinto. Manny and Sub-Zero 7th and 8th, and the new Asus is the last car to set a time, with Linguini, I believe, serving a qualifying ban starting from P10. But yeah, points will be for all tonight if everyone does make it to the end of the race, but it will be interesting to see how indeed all turns out, and I'm going to hope that I don't end up missing the restart last week, because I had to go and get something to quench thirst, rather. Another nice, very clear day as we head through into the race itself. We'll see how that all turns out. As I say, it's a very short turnaround in between. We'll have a quick look and see what the drivers are on. We're on softs at the moment. One change onto the mediums. You're going to see potentially the softs used as a tyre here in the 50% format. It's a little bit more of an interesting tyre that can wear very quickly, but you can make use of it to perhaps pull away, because if you don't want to be in a DRS detection, DRS trap, or rather a DRS train, because if you end up in a DRS train, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble as such, because the car behind will just be able to just immediately pass by them in the straight. But it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers have set their wings up as such. This is kind of the race I was hoping for yesterday, but unfortunately it was not the case, and it was absolutely chucking it down. Well, it was intermediate conditions, but myself was not for those conditions, and it just did not work at all. But yeah, we move from that. So it will be an interesting experience, I believe. There is indeed no formation lap for this one, as per the usual, as I found out on a multitude of occasions, thinking I've got a bit more time to run through certain things, and it turns out it's not the case at all. But yeah, will be interesting to see who does indeed come out on top. In terms of thing, I'll just leave this on the screen just now and see if anything does change around at the moment. The tyres for the drivers may well potentially start, and this can completely change, and it does look like we have quite the Portuguese contingent here tonight. 4th, 5th and 6th, and then 8th and 9th, all from the beautiful country of Portugal. Somewhere I've not been personally, but someplace I would like to go at some point in my life, if I can do it. And then obviously, I believe we've got the two drivers. We've got one. Yeah. Nice little eclectic mix of countries being represented here tonight for the Grand Prix. But from the drivers, I expect to do well here. Obviously, the Fizz will be looking to carry on his form. As such, I believe Ryan is a very, very quick driver on his day, and with the right levels of luck, sometimes has been caught up in a little bit of not so lucky. As the lights are indeed now on, the 5 lights are indeed on here in Zandvoort. And away we go for 36 laps of racing here in Zandvoort. Good start there from Ryan. Fizz is looking to get alongside him into Tarzan corner, turn 1. A little bit wide there from the Red Bull as they go side by side in towards turn number 1. And I think the Fizz has taken the lead of the Grand Prix. In the Aston Martin, as there goes Ryan into the wall, and I think he has completely lost the front wing. So there's a virtual safety car has been deployed. From that, that's not ideal. Immediately we have, that's something you will see a lot of, is the fact that the actual, let's just say, it's going to be something you'll see a lot, is the safety cars or virtual safety car coming, because of how close the proximity of the walls are. And it's an Aston Martin 1-2, both on the medium compound tyres. Looking third, has opted to go onto the softs. Manny's on 4th is on the mediums. Pinto in 5th is on the softs. Molino and 6th is on the mediums, and then ISIS is on the softs. Linguini on the mediums, Sub-Zero on the mediums, and obviously Ryan's going to have to come in with that wing damage and probably go onto the hard compound tyres and maybe use a set of the mediums later on, because it does look like odd that would take off the front wing. And we could have a massive amount of teamwork here between the two Aston Martins, as obviously slowing down a little bit here just to make sure that nobody goes over the delta. And I believe, as I say, the delta, you do need to make sure you stick underneath that delta, because it's a very unforgiving aspect of the game, the delta under virtual safety car. As you'll see, Ryan getting his front wing replaced. DRS has been enabled once again, as here we go for the race on lap number 2. As it does look like the two Aston Martins have remained pretty close together, as it looks like Manny's trying to put the pressure onto Luke Bailey, as Manny actually has made a very slight mistake, and that's going to allow the Williams of Jay Pinto alongside. However, the Alpine driver has managed to remain ahead for the moment. It is about 0.2 of a second in the gap, and then you've got Molino just behind in the Racing Bulls V-Carb. I've got that name on Racing Bulls, we'll just go with that. As Jay Pinto still trying to make a move here on Manny. As I say, this is what you're going to see a lot of. As I say, it's a lot of DRS trains in this early stage until it all kind of levels out, as such as the soft tyres are looking, Jay Pinto on the softs looking to try and get past Manny on there, as it looks like we've had to change all position for the lead of the Grand Prix. DRS will be enabled, and Verde takes the lead of the Grand Prix. However, Fizz is going to have a go here, probably in towards turn number 1, but Luke Bailey, looking even quicker, sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on the soft compound tyres. Those tyres still in a decent window at the moment. Is on that McLaren, the only sole McLaren here tonight, as Isis and go side by side. Looks like again still very close, trying to go round the outside. That was Manny, Linguini rather. Alpine actually having the two drivers here tonight as well. I didn't actually realise that. As Manny's into P2, great job there from Manny. Past the Fizz, trying to get past us. There goes, trying to get back past is indeed the Fizz, but the Fizz is too far behind to make a move. And Manny in the Alpine, the first of the Alpines, is through into P. Has now caused a bit of a gap as such, and the Fizz, that's probably not going to be something he's going to be looking at, because now the Portuguese driver of Verde is now going to pull away a little bit as he goes side by side. Manny holding on to the position. That's the thing that's going ahead in that DRS zone is because it is two separate zones. You don't want to be making a move into there, because you'll end up with the driver behind getting the detection there as you come off there, as he goes side by side through the banking. Nice little bit of space left between those two drivers, and it's going to be side by side in towards turn number 1. You can see that in behind as well, as there goes Molino past Aces in towards turn number 1 as well, and Luke Bailey remains in 4th for the time being, as it's side by side between the Kick Sauber and the Racing Bulls. Bull rather of Molino and Aces, as they've got Linguini for company behind as well. Linguini trying to look to see if he can get a move done through the kinks of 5 and 6, or 4 and 5 rather, and Linguini's still behind for the moment. The Singaporean, I believe, or the Indonesian, I believe it's one of those two flags. I believe it's the Singaporean one, is the right flag that's on there. I don't know if that's actually the origin as such, but I'm basing that off of there for the moment. And everyone's still close, apart from obviously Ryan and Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero has dropped off a little bit off the back of the train. Linguini's still looking at the back of the Kick Sauber and seeing if he can make a move stick. But we're going to go back, see if anything does happen here, and I think the Fizz is now back into P2 again and looking to make a move on his teammate. Manny fell back once again. As you can see, the difference is very quick. This is a fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:12.121. All the 2s and all the 1s in that particular sentence right there. As he goes back into the lead, does the Fizz, and Linguini has managed to get past Aces, but they're going side by side. Once again, the Kick Sauber still with a decent amount of grip on those soft compound tyres. Around the outside of the banking goes Linguini in towards P6, so great drive there from Linguini to get off the corner and make that work, because those soft tyres will probably be going off fairly soon, but then lap 7 and lap 10. As you've got Jay Pinto trying to potentially have a look at both these guys now in the softs. So Williams versus the Kick Sauber for P7, the Portuguese driver who did not have the best of times last week, as there goes Molino has had a moment. I think has hit the curb and has spun. We've just seen the eventual end of that one, and he's dropped down quite a few positions into P8. He was up quite a little bit further than that, as Linguini now is actually going to be under a little bit of pressure from the Kick Sauber if he's not careful. He's just looking to try and make a move, but he's going to be quite close enough to make that move. So we're going to go back to Verde, see if he can get close enough to go down the straight. Once again, the detection zone with the letterbox wide open on that Aston Martin. The Aston Martin's working together to try and see if we can get Manny out of that 1 second detection zone here in. With 30 laps left to go, you can see how quickly the laps do disappear because of just how short the lap is around here. It's only about a 1 minute 10, 1 minute 11 lap time around here. Probably even quicker than that once the actual track goes up. Just a little bit more as the Fizz keeping his teammate under pressure as we've got Ace is still looking. Ace is trying to make a move on Linguini, who's about 2 seconds behind at the moment and has made what has been a great start at the moment for Linguini from the back of the grid at the moment, from where he started in P10. He's currently up 5. Obviously Ryan, the biggest loser, down 8, I believe. Then having started P2, he's just trying to make a move in towards the end of the second sector split, but does not manage to make it. And now coming through the kinks, that's turns 12, and then coming into turn 13 and 14, the banking marking the final corner. We're going to come back to that in just a second. The Fizz once again is going to make a change of position. Nope, there's what can stay behind for now. So we're going to go back to the Aces, who's going to try and make a move on Linguini and towards turn number 1, but it looks like Jay Pinto was looking for a switchback, looking left and right, or trying to see if he could make a move in towards turn number 1, but the Williams driver still behind for now, looking at his tyres are slightly better on that than on his car than the car in front, the Kick Sauber. We've had a change of position for the lead of the Grand Prix. I think there has been. It's very close between the top 3. Manny's within 0.2 of a second. Luke Bailey as well, still in that as well. A little bit of a gap there as Linguini, 2.1. A little bit of heavier battling will get him in to this particular battle, as Manny keeping herself in contention as well. The Polish driver trying to see if she can make her way through and try and get past the 2 Aston Martins and stamp her authority on this particular race. And Luke Billy still hanging on to the coattails of the Alpine just in front. And you've got Linguini, who's made quite a bit of ground. It's 1.7 now. We're going to have a huge train that is probably going to go all the way down. Once it forms up all the way down to P7, which is going to be an amazing battle to watch if we can all form up. As here comes Luke Bailey as you try and make a move to turn 1. Manny does move very slightly to say no, you're not having that line. However, the outside line actually here for turn 1 is actually the preferred line, because the inside is actually going to leave you very exposed and very tight. So you have to be right alongside by the time you've made the move to turn 1. Otherwise, the outside line is the one you're preferred place where you want to make the move. Looking a little bit further back, you've got Aces still looking all over the back of Linguini, having made a little bit of a mistake, having lost about 0.3 of a second, has the second Alpine, and Aces is looking to see if he can get past the Alpine in front, and no DRS of course for Linguini, so there's nothing he can do as such about that, apart from just using the battery he has. As you can see, that battle just in front, it's a huge battle going on there for what is the battle for P4 upwards all the way to the lead. Fizz has not managed to clear his teammate out of that 1 second zone. It's only 0.7 of a second, and he's going to once again get DRS. Manny with not the best exits. Looks like it's a little bit of a bobble on the curb for the Alpine driver as they almost go side by side. Manny looks to defend. A little bit of squeezing there from the Alpine driver. Luke goes into P3. They go side by side through turn number 1 and towards the following corners. And Manny does get Luke to form back into formation once again, and Manny remains in 3rd place, having moved up, I believe, on the same starting positions as was before. No, Manny's up 4 at the moment. Luke's currently down 1, so having started 3rd. So a great start there from Manny to make her way up to 3rd place in all of this, because you can take advantage of the battling. And once again, Linguini closing the gap. 1.6 seconds is the gap between himself and Luke in 4th, as we've still got this train going on at the moment, and we've still got this little train further behind them, the Kick-Saubers, the Alpine Kick-Sauber and Williams battle going on, and Lino, I think, he's maybe got a little bit of damage on that car. He doesn't quite have the same level of pace, because he seems to be struggling just a little bit to keep up with this train, because the DRS, once it's in effect, if you don't have the DRS of the car in front, you're going to be a little bit of trouble as such in trying to make a move. As here comes Jay Pinto trying to make a move down the inside, and it's going to be down to 7th for the Kick-Sauber, and P6 goes to Jay Pinto in the first couple of Williams. No, both on 9-lap hold softs between the two of them, and the Williams driver has made their way through into P6 and can now try and see if they can challenge Linguini for P5 at the moment. Looking a little bit further up once again, the battle for the lead. Ricade keeping himself in the contention for the lead of the Grand Prix. Manny's fell back out of 1 second once again, probably going to have to use a little bit of charge to get back into that DRS detection of 1 second or less within the white line, as you see on the track, as we've got 26 remaining here. As I say, the track lap time is so short around this track, and once you get in a nice flow with this track, it's an amazing track to drive. You just have to have the right flow as such, because the flow can sometimes, if it's disturbed in any way, shape or form, it can sometimes come across in a certain ways that sort of appears if it's going to screw you over as such. As here we go, side by side once again into the first corner they go. Luke Bailey's going to get a clean move done this time. Manny's down to 4th in the Alpine, the McLaren up to 3rd of Luke, and yeah. And he's still having to now rethink strategy here to get herself back ahead of Luke again. Obviously that will be soon, with Luke coming in fairly soon for a set of the medium compound tyres, I would think, or the hards for that. But those mediums, the soft tyres are going to level longer than I was expecting them to actually go as such. But looks like eventually they may well start to drop off soon. But Jay Pinto still looking very close, as I say, in the back of Linguini as such, and it's 1.5. He's bringing the gap down slowly but surely, and you can see his teammate just in front now. Yeah, I was thinking that. I don't know why I was thinking, like, my brain just decided to say something, two things at once, and nothing ended up being actually productive there. But yeah, the gaps front have kind of got a little bit bigger. The top two remain the same. It's the two Aston Martins are in first and second. Luke Bailey hanging on to 1 second just ahead. Manny in 4th, 1.3 seconds further back from Luke Bailey, and then you've got Jay Pinto trying to see if he get a move done down the inside of Linguini into P5, but Linguini holds on to that position for the moment, P5, and has to stay down 4 in our lap, and you're noticing how difficult it can be to overtake, especially if you've got the car in front of you running higher wings in the corners, because the higher wings will mean you'll have to burn a lot more battery, and you might save a little bit less battery, even with the actual new system, the battery systems they have in place in the game this year. But it will mean that you will have to burn a little bit more in the straights just to keep yourself ahead. If you're running a little bit more slippery setup, then you do need to be aware of the wings maybe not carrying the same level of speed through the corners that cars around you can. So taking advantage of it, making sure that you're able to fully use and utilise the speed that you're able to carry as such through the corners. As the McLaren, the Williams remains close to the back of the Alpine. You'd think after the many years doing this, and I managed to get car names right. It does occasionally happen. As Manny's 1.6 seconds, and it looks like he's struggling just a little bit. And Linguini's got within 7/10 now, so now Jay Pinto's going to have to get the job done as Linguini now. It's going to be another inter-team battle here between the two Alpines here. Hopefully there is no, as they say, French civil war between these two, because we know what is that happens when two Alpines come together, or Force India, if the previous iteration of the team, if you know it well. Making sure there's no French Revolution between the two of them as such. But yeah, Luke Bailey's fell out of that one set. He's almost 2 seconds behind now in that battle for P3, and it's looking like Luke Bailey is probably going to be coming in soon, most likely for a set of the medium compound tyres to take him towards the end of this Grand Prix. Lap 13 to 36. We're coming up on half race distance, I believe. We've just across the half race distance of this Grand Prix, or we're very close to it. As for Davis, just about holding on to that 1 second, as Fizz looks like he's taking control of this Grand Prix and saying, no, you're not getting anywhere near me, as Linguini now is going to be under pressure from his own fault. He's going to have to get past his teammate, and is going to try and move down the inside, but is not going to be able to make it work as Manny defends. Both the Alpines are on the medium compound tyres and looking to maybe go on to the softs if they do that, or the hards. Either way, is Linguini, having done the hard work, makes a little bit of a mistake and is now side by side through the kinks of 4 and 5. And now side by side they still go, and now this is going to cost them time as they're both saving batteries side by side still. Linguini does eventually get position back, but that has cost him a little bit of time, and now he has to sort of reconfigure himself once again, and go again and see what he can do against his teammate in front, that being Manny, in the other Alpine here. We've got Aces just in the back of this train as well, as we're going to go quickly and see if there's going to be any change here. I don't believe we have indeed seen any change. I don't think we will this time round. It's going to be status quo, I think, between the two Aston Martins. DRS open, but I think he's just going to save a little bit of his battery at the moment. He's only about 6 tenths back, and I think that's just a tiny bit too far back. I mean, you have to be within half a second. Linguini's boxed, so that's an early box for Linguini. Going into the hard compound tyres, I believe, at that early stage, for the second of the two Alpines. He does go into the hards. I mean, that's going to be your cue for the drivers on the medium compound tyres to maybe think about going for hard compound tyres, which I think will be happening fairly soon. As JP still carries on, trying to hassle and harry the back of the Alpine, and seeing how close he can get to the rear of that particular car. The Alpine in front in this case, and then Ace is still sitting in this, he's hanging on to the train and the coattails in the background. He's about 6 tenths behind, just in this little queue of 3 cars here. And then you've got Luke, who I think is starting to struggle a little bit, and Manny's starting to come back a little bit towards him, as Manny is 1.6 seconds and could potentially gain in some ground soon. And we'll see the other a few drivers into the pit soon, see if anyone responds to Linguini boxing for the hard compound tyres, as we do indeed reach about half race distance, as we're on 20 to go here in Zandvoort. As into the pits comes Manny, 10-second penalty, speeding it in the pit lane entry. First one caught out by that particular new penalty. Obviously the new penalty, the 10-second penalties, which were the 5 seconds from last year, have been made a little bit more harsh from last year's game. It's now 10 seconds, but those do get served in the pit lane if you do manage to do it. Otherwise it goes to the end of the Grand Prix, and you somehow you have to build a 10-second gap. As now I think Manny's come out just ahead of Linguini, and the overcut seems to have worked for the Polish driver. Linguini 1.6 seconds behind it in this particular occasion, as the two teammates. It's going to be interesting to see if we see either of these two pit fairly soon, because these two are both on the same strategy, so they will not want to double stack under open conditions, because double stacking will lose a whole heap of time between the two of them. So I wonder if we will see boxing from one of the two here fairly soon. And the mediums probably will go a little bit longer. They're still both carrying on at the moment, as the two Aston Martins, as they have Luke Bailey 5.6 behind us into the pits, goes Luke Bailey and Jay at the same time. On to, most likely, it could be the mediums if they can make it work. But if you want a safe strategy, you've got who's also gone into the pits. Luke Bailey has gone into the mediums, and so has Jay Pinton. Those two will have to do a little bit of tyre saving in their pursuit of the cars in front, but they won't be able to make that work, as there goes Manny into third, as Aces has opted to carry on for the moment. He's about 8.2 behind, and Manny will be, I wonder how close Manny will be able to get to the race lead as we head on through, as Manny's now got company behind of Luke Bailey, who's now on the medium compound tyres. Obviously Manny with that 10-second penalty as well, looming over her head. Having to worry about that particular one as well, as such. Really, who will be looking to make his way through, as well as Linguini, who's now already been on those hard tyres and has got them up to temperature, and the Alpine looking to make his way through from P6 at the moment. He's still making way. I think he's up 4 at the moment from where he started. He became P10 originally, and then we've got J Penta just sitting in the background as well, seeing to pick up any of the pieces in case anything does happen. Into the pits comes Asus from P3. 17 laps on the softs. He's going onto the medium compact tyres. Most likely is Asus. Indeed he does. So we're going to see Sub-Zero has not yet boxed. He's on 16 lap old medium. He's the last car to roll 16 lap, 17 lap old medium. So two of these two. And I think these two may well be trying something a little bit different. They may well be trying to go to around about lap 20 odd. Not lap 25, 26. And seeing if they can make the soft compound tyres work, because otherwise it'd be interesting to see if they both decide to do that, because these two do not want to double stack as such, because they will lose a heap load of time as a result. We'll see how those two shape up in just a little bit. So we're going to go back to this little battle here, in the battle for what's P3 currently, which is currently led by Manny, who was the first of the drivers to pit, 24 seconds behind this Brigade's gone into the pits. He's gone onto the hard tyres most likely, because there's no way he's going to be able to take the softs to the end of the Grand Prix from here. Even on the green flag racing as such, then onto the hards he goes. He could come out in this huge amount of traffic as such, unless he's lucky and able to do it, and it looks like he's exiting the box now. Is the Aston Martin driver, and I think, is he going to be able to just do it, as here comes J Pinto trying to make a move here on Luke Bailey, trying to get down the inside. It's a double move being made, as in towards turn at number 1 you've got Linguini and Manny going side by side. Linguini forcing his teammate a little bit out wide, and Manny's down to 4th, and Linguini, it's not ideal there for Manny, because Manny has to get that penalty, gap for that penalty as such, and the fifth is still carrying on, and Linguini's got within 6 seconds, but that's it at the moment. As here comes Luke Bailey trying to make a move as well. We have a yellow, I think that's Molino, who's had a moment in the Racing Bulls. We only have Racing Bulls cars here tonight. In the sector 1, just coming through the banking, I believe he's had a moment. He touched potentially upon the curbs in that particular corner, or maybe just off the banking itself. So really now at the back of this queue, and 2 lap old medium rather, with J Penta just there as Asus. 3.8 behind, 3.6. He's getting around himself. Is the Portuguese driver, the one of many contingent of Portuguese drivers that is here in this race. Manny's now trying to get a move done as well. You're going to see probably a fair few position. Well, you're going to see double position changes here, as there goes J Pinto trying to get round the outside of Manny. Manny holding on to the position. That's going to put Luke Bailey in a position where he can make a move on J Pinto. They go side by side in towards the banking, round the outside. Luke Bailey trying to use the banking to try and make a move here, and he's got it done. It's J Pinto, I think, has had a moment. I think, has he survived? I think he has managed to survive, but I suspect he has a wing damage on that right hand side. Yes, he has. That's going to ace us a chance, and that's not ideal for J Pinto. He's going to have to come into the pits once again, probably to replace that damage, and almost into the pits for a new set of the mediums. Ryan's still carrying on at the moment. Obviously, no, he got the wing damage on lap 1, so his race, unless there is a safety car, is pretty much done. Ryan's going to have to box again for a new set of, maybe a set of mediums, or if he wants to, softs, to see if he can get fast lap to the Grand Prix. 10 drivers in this field, so he will be able to take a point for fastest lap. As the Fizz has carried on, 20 seconds is the gap between himself and his teammate in the field. And it's going to be interesting to see what his strategy call is going to look like, because he's carried on for the moment. I definitely think he's trying the soft strategy. He needs to make sure those tyres don't fall off too much, because the soft tyres will do that, as there's going to be a side-by-side moment, as Luke Bailey going side-by-side with Manny in towards turn number 1, and Luke Bailey trying to go round the outside, which is going to give him inside line, but they're still side-by-side. A little bit of rear wheel to rear left wheel to front wing contact, but there's still full front wing on that McLaren, and the Aston Martin driver remains ahead for now, and Asus has managed to get past J Pinto, who does have obviously that right hand side damage with the collision with the wall in the first sector for the Williams driver. And as I say, they will still pick up points in their quest in the constructors for their chase, but It will not be as much as they were probably hoping for today, as it's 15 seconds. Look at the gap that's been taken out there at the fizz. I'm not sure what really sort of his play still is. He's into the box now. He's opted to box, realising he's lost so much time. And I think he's going to come and probably use the medium compound tyres, no softs. That's an interesting play. I don't know if that's going to work out for him, because those softs will maybe go about 12 laps, but that's definitely going to be an interesting play to see how that one works, as his teammate takes lead of the Grand Prix. But the Fizz is going to have to really make sure he keeps those tyres under control, then make sure that those tyres are going to be in decent condition, because he does not want to be using the life of those tyres up too early. But we will see him lighting up the timesheets fairly soon. And Ryan and Sub-Zero have I think Ryan's made a move on Sub-Zero for P8, but I think Ryan will probably be coming into the pits fairly soon, and Sub-Zero probably exactly the same. Those two still carrying on. They're going into the medium, the soft tyres themselves at the end of this Grand Prix, as the two Alpines continue to battle for what is P3 at the moment, the final spot on the podium. Linguini and Manny still battling there, as they've got Luke Bailey in the background as well. Ace is trying to bring that gap down. It's 2.2 seconds for himself and the Sauber and the McLaren. The lone cars on each team here this week in this 10-car field. And Manny still trying to see how close she can get to the rear of Linguini in front. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one all plays out. It's just a little bit of a moment coming off that final corner, that outside that line, the curbing on the outside there, catching out Manny a little bit as she tries to put power down on the field, or in the rear of the car, and not agreeing with what was being asked of the car there. So looking to, of course, carry on with that particular motion, as we're about coming into probably, let's see, sometime in the next clips, coming into the closing act of it, is into the pits comes Sub-Zero, probably going onto the softs. He'll be fine towards the end. The one stop for him. Ryan's going to be carrying on, trying to make those hard tyres work, but at the moment he's going to be finishing in P8. That unfortunate moment right at the beginning of the race, costing him massively with that slide in the banking, which meant he was in the wall, missing a front wing, which caused the only yellow flag and the virtual safety car, which is the only virtual safety car we've seen in this race so far. And we've got the Fizz and his teammate. Obviously this is pretty much, I think, had done the ultimate for a day. He's probably just going to let him go as such. It'd be the sort of better option here. Indeed he does opt to let him go, and maybe he can stay behind and follow in the coattails using the DRS between the two of them to see what he can do. The Portuguese driver and the Fizz, I'm not sure if worldwide flag on him, so not sure if exact nationality is such. Going back once again, we've still got Luke Bailey in the background on 7 lap on mediums. He probably needs to be careful of how long he's on those tyres, how long he waits to make a move on those tyres, because the hard tyres will eventually become the better race tyre. But at the moment, I'm looking at the gaps at the moment, and I'm not sure if Manny's going to have enough with what's going on at the moment. Let's have a quick old look at the leader. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're dropped down as we got a yellow. That is going to be for, I believe, a lap, very brief, whatever it was, as it's for Data, I think, who's made a mistake, and that's what that was for. That was for the Aston Martin making a mistake, as there goes Molino out of the Grand Prix, and that is in the pit lane, so there will be no action further from that, and has stayed in the pit lane as well, which is quite nice, because sometimes there's the Fizz setting the fast lap to Grand Prix at 1:11.069 for him there. 1.6 seconds now, as here comes Manny trying to make a move down the inside. Ace has got past us there, down in towards, we've even got to turn 1, and is Luke Bailey going to have another shot trying to go down the inside? I didn't see that briefly in the background, but see, Luke Bailey has not managed to regain the position. Manny's still trying to make a move. Through the banking section they go on lap number 25 of 36. As there's using a little bit more of the curving, there is Linguini in front, and Linguini will be taking that final spot on the podium, and it looks like, as I say, it could be a massive drop off here from Manny with that 10-second time penalty. The only person with a penalty in the field. The track around here is sometimes a little bit easy to pick penalties, and for some reason it's kicking me out of my own party again. So sorry about that, if any drivers could hear me. If you just bear with me just 1 second. Sorry about that, there we go, that's better. I'm back in party audio, well, normal party again. 10 to go here, as here, just using a certain person, as Manny's still remaining close, and has indeed left the session. So unfortunate there from the Racing Bulls driver, there will be no points for the Racing Bulls. They remain at the bottom of the constructors in Tier 1 for the time being, so no further action will be taken from those two. And Manny's still trying to make her way through past Linguini, and has been looking at the gearbox of Linguini for about 3 or 4 laps now, and you've got Asus making his way through. Just over 2 seconds is the gap between the Alpine and the King Server, and the battling between these two is going to be helping Asus catch up, and then Luke Bailey's still within range as well. As such, well, Luke Bailey's got himself back within almost within DRS once again, but he's hanging on the precipice of that sort of area. As I say, the Fizz has done an interesting strategy. I mean, I wasn't sure of that strategy from him there, and he's managing to make it work so far. Is the Fizz. It'll be interesting to see how much the tyre drop off is though for him, because you still do have a fair few laps left to go, and he is going to have to be a tyre whisperer on those particular tyres to make sure that he is keeping those in check. And Manny still once again sitting in behind, and there's no maneuver being made as such. And I do think Linguini is perhaps running a little bit of a lower setup for the wings, and he's managing to keep himself ahead for the moment, and he tries to look low at the banking, but that just settles the rear of the car very slightly, and he has to remain behind for now. And the Polish driver still being frustrated by her teammate just in front, and not being able to make the move really stick anywhere, and it's all going to come down to picking and choosing the moment where the second Alpine driver wishes to go for it, because this DRS detection zone, you don't want to make a move here, because you make a move into here, it's going to leave you exposed for the second detection zone. So you really got to think tactically about which one of the detection zones you want to use, perhaps your battery in. Or maybe, well, if you're sit behind, then you've got no cars behind you. You just use no ERS, just use the battery just on a little bit of occasion to the overtake, and make use of that. As we've got a side-by-side moment, we've got Asus being passed by Luke Bailey in towards turn number 1. Just caught at the very edge of that as Luke Bailey's making his way through now as well, and he's 1.7 seconds behind in this the battle for P3 at the moment. Linguini's still leading that battle. It's about 4/10ths. That gap's not really moving as such. And Manny, without that penalty, I think maybe it would be less pressure on the shoulders of Manny, but I don't know if that penalty maybe is looming a little bit in terms of what's sitting there and making her think about maybe one of the good places to make a move, or when to make the moves as such. As I say, we're coming into what is going to be effectively known as the actual closing stages of the Grand Prix. We're about 8 laps, I believe, away from 7 laps away now from the Grand Prix end here in Zandvoort. I mean, the laps have gone very quickly as such. It's one of those things you do notice with the short track length. I mean, doing Singapore last week, there was some great, as I say, the battles. It's much like, it's much like Singapore last week. I mean, the Fizz and Marky gave us a great battle last week. Obviously, the Fizz had the damage on the front wing, which he managed to power through with, which I wasn't entirely sure if he was going to be able to make that entirely work, but he did indeed manage to power through that last week, and he did make his actual strategy work and won the Grand Prix from Marky. I mean, Marky had a chance on numerous occasions to make the move. Well, he had 2 or 3 occasions where he could have made a move, and it was very clear, even with the wing damage, that Fizz was still quicker in a straight line than him. So it was a great little battle between the two of them, and now Luke Bailey is now joined into this little three-way battle for what is P3, and looking to upset the apple cart of this current Alpine 3-4 at the moment, as we're on 6 to go here. The leader just gone across line and through the first sector split, and he's on 8 lap old tyres now, so at some point I'm going to see that gap starting to go back down again. If and when that is, that'll be interesting to see when that does indeed happen. And we've got Manny still stuck behind for the moment. Luke Bailey trying to go round the outside. Now this is the proverbial kick that Manny's going to need to get a move on, because Luke Bailey is just Ryan also with a 10-second penalty in the pit lane entry. He's on 28 laps and he's going to go probably go for fast lap of the Grand Prix. Is the Red Bull driver. Really unfortunate that his race, as I say, unfolded on lap 1. You do sometimes, as I say, you do all the practice in the world, and it doesn't really matter what you do with that, because your race can be unravelled so easily just by 1 or 2 small mistakes, and it can just mean that your entire race can be just done with like the smallest of things. As I say, the great little battle here is, I thought there was going to be a move down the inside for Luke Bailey. He's going to try and see if he can go around the outside. Just a little bit of on board just for a little bit. Luke Bailey still has company behind it. Aces has managed to get himself into this little tree once again as well. He was there as a full battery deployment for Luke Bailey. He's going to be deploying all the way down the straight towards turn number 1. Is he going to try and get down the inside? However, he's backed off very early and he's decided not to go for it, and the letterbox does close. A little bit of front locking from the front left, front right rather, and he's not able to really make any inroads as such. And this is what happens when you end up with the running higher wing setups. The cars will just not have enough straight line. You'll not have enough straight line speed, even with the DRS deployment, to actually make it stick. And as I say, there's only one place to say you're using that to hit that DRS, down from turn 14 into turn number 1. As J Pinto gets past Brian for P7 a little bit further back in this Grand Prix. While we're on board with this particular battle here, as Luke Bailey's trying to hassle and harry the back of Manny's 15 lap old hard tyres versus 14 lap old mediums, and Manny holds on to the position still. And this is, as I say, Manny needed to get maybe a little bit away, and it does look, as I say, while this is all going on, the battle for the lead group, the sort of lead 2, it does look like the Fizz has got the gap at about 10 seconds between himself and his teammate, and is looking to carry on his momentum from the season as Luke Bailey gets passed in towards turn number 1, and Manny finally has the seat position, not being able to clear Linguini for P3, and now is going to have to worry about Aces behind. And as I say, you've got to be careful of the camber of that particular corner. As you do notice there with Luke, he was doing a little bit sliding, trying to put power down there. You do need to be somewhat careful just to make sure that the back end does not want to try and step out on you coming out of the cambers at a certain place on this particular track. The other one being the exits of 13 and 14. Being careful not to have a moment, as it looks like we've got another moment there as we've got 2 cars side by side. It is actually a side by side battle for P7. J Pinto's managed to, he's been re-overtaken by Ryan for that as Aces and Manny. Manny's fell down yet another position as Aces has managed to get back past. Manny back down to P6 for the time being. We'll be looking to try and get the move redone though, as we now head into the final corners. And now Luke Bailey's going to have a go, as something that Manny was not able to do for a lot of laps here, as Linguini's saving battery and realising that it's probably not worth fighting it unless he can do the move around the outside. Manny and Aces will further back as well. Luke Bailey around the outside of turn number 1, going to need to get a good exit coming off there, and he's still not able to quite do it. Manny though has fell out back at a range of 1.3 seconds, so the 4-way battle has now splintered into 2-way battles as we head on to what is effectively 3 laps to go here in Zandvoort. Number 33 of 36 here. As I say, time flies. As we've got a manoeuvre once again. These two have swapped positions in towards turn number 1. J Pinto and Ryan. Obviously Ryan battling for what was trying to recover as much as what he physically can recover, because a lot of positions lost indeed from the start, obviously. These two very close together, trying to see what they can do. Is Asus and Manny going side by side once again. Asus is not being helpful. It's been a bit of a hindrance here to Manny, and Manny's not able to really get back into that DRS train once again. He's probably thinking, work with me, not work against me, and try and get ourselves back into the train and see if we can actually get through into the that train for P3 again. As it's going to be, I think Linguini's going to be too. I think Luke Bale's going to be too far back from Linguini in this occasion, and he's going to be just behind, and has decided to stop using the battery quite early down the lap. So we're going to go back to what the battle is for P7 at the moment. They're going to be coming out of the final couple of corners. Great little aerial shot, as you can see there, of the battling pair of Jay Pinto and Ryan Barthez as they come out of the final corner and down towards turn 14 and up along the banking towards turn number 1 for the 34th time. And down the inside Ryan goes, still both saving a little bit of battery. Jay Pinto is going to be good, interesting to see who has the actual line coming into the final corner. The final corner, that penultimate corner in the final lap, because that will be the one that potentially decides it. It will be 30, 35 or 36, or onto 35, onto 36 rather, because that will be the person who gets that position there for P7. Asus meanwhile is still not as close this time round, so a little bit of a break there for Manny, but those hards may be starting to feel the pressure a little bit, and Asus on 2-lap younger tyres, but a step softer in terms of the mediums. As see if Asus can make a move down in towards goes round the outside, and he's there we go down the inside. Is Manny going to be able to break late, come back round the inside? Asus is going to have the better line as they go round towards turn number 1, and I think Manny's down to P6. That penalty, as I say, will not demote the Polish driver down any further positions from where she currently is, due to the nature that Ryan is a good 23 seconds behind, and then you've got those two still battling in towards turn number 1. Are they still going to be side by side as they come out of this particular corner? As I say, a few of the battles going on. The physics, meanwhile, while that's going on, as we're all in the penultimate lap, has got the gap out to 14 seconds. It hasn't really dropped as such. The tyre wear, amazingly, has managed to keep going for longer than I was thinking it was going to do. I was thinking that was going to drop off much sooner than that, but he has managed to do his calculation correct as the leader, as he has indeed just started the final lap of the Grand Prix, and he's looking to see what he's going through to probably win yet another race after I believe either a victory or being on the podium last time out in Singapore. Luke Bailey going to try and move into turn number 1. The battery's indeed going to be on, and it's going to be one of the last opportunities he has down the inside. Also Manny trying to get past Asus, and has managed to get the move back done into P5. Luke Bailey though has not managed to get move done, so he's going to have one more detection zone to go, and he needs to get that done there. And I think we're going to also see him move potentially maybe a little bit further back, although I'm not sure. He's going to be coming out the final corner. Ryan once again with the batteries and the DRS as he comes out the final corner, and it's going to be onto the final lap of the Grand Prix for these two. Down the inside he goes, and that's moved, done and dusted. The Red Bull in towards P7 once again. Going back to the battle with Luke, and I think it's going to be interesting to note as we're going to see the lead driver coming around the final corner now. We'll come back to that battle in just a brief moment, but here comes the Aston Martin driver, managed to pull off the medium to soft strategy, going a little bit longer. His teammate is going to come home in P2, and I think Linguini, who's going to come home in P3 though? Is it going to be Linguini or is it going to be Luke Bailey? It's going to be very close between the two of them. It's about half a second is the gap between the two. 4 tenths of a second, half second is the gap between Manny and Asus. Obviously before penalties are taken into account. Verdade does cross the line in P2, so it's an Aston Martin 1-2. Good points for them in the constructors. Linguini is going to come home in P3, and Luke Bailey will come on P4. Is able to jump, and Manny serves that 10-second penalty, which was not served in the pit lane, and Manny will drop behind into P6, but will not drop down any further. Pinto though, is there going to be any more between these two as they come out of the final corner, turn number 14 onto the banking for the final time? And I think this is going to remain exactly as it is supposed to be. It's going to be P7 for Ryan, who's got a 10-second, and then Jay Pinto will retake the position. And finally, to cross the line, is going to be Sub-Zero in P9, a bit of an anonymous race for him, and he crosses the line to finish in P9, and there we go. There is your run for this particular race here at Zandvoort. So we're going great battles for the numbers we had, as Linguini will pick up driver of the day, and I'm fairly sure there's going to be no arguments from me about that from Linguini. Great little drive there from Linguini. I would also like to give a shout out to Manny as well, but yeah, a little bit of a backflip there, some style there for the Fizz on the podium there, and his teammate alongside him, Aston Martin 1-2, and then it is of course Linguini after the terrible race he had last week out in Singapore, coming back in great fashion to pick up a podium here for the Alpine team, with his teammate finishing down in P6 Manny this week. So well done to the drivers on the podium. Great result for them. So your results indeed on screen. It is the Fizz who wins from second place on the grid at 111 with a fast lap of 111.069. Then it is Verdade in second place from fourth, and then Linguini completes the podium from P10. Luke Bailey will finish in P4, just one position down on where he started with Aces, up from 9th up to 5th. Great drive from him too. And then Manny will finish in 6th, J Pinto in 7th, Ryan in 8th. Not an ideal race for him considering he started on pole. And then Sub-Zero in 9th, the last of the finishers, and the last of the only non-finisher was Molino in the Racing Bulls. So, next week's race will take us to let's have a quick old look and see where the next race will be taking us to. Next race will take us to another very well-known circuit. It is going to be São Paulo in Brazil for the Brazilian Grand Prix, the Carlos Pache circuit, whichever one you wish to name it as. But I think that is everything that needs to be said for tonight. Well done to everyone who indeed did manage to finish the race here. So yeah, we will see you next time out in Brazil, where it'll be back to business as usual with Casper. Casper will be back on comms for this main channel. So look forward to hearing his dulcet tones once again. And as what is to be said from me is good night all.